Hello everyone, this is Rann Goldrich, and I'd like to talk a little bit about quantum spin waves and reverse quantum spin waves. I have been working on spin wave technology for at least 10 years, and spin waves originally came about while working with brainwave states. And that is the key element to all spin waves, whether or not they're regular or quantum. And to not go too far into brainwave states, there are essentially five that every human body repetitiously runs through on a regular basis, daily, hourly, minute by minute. And when you experience something you just have your humdrum day and you're going through your brainwave states, everything's fine. But let's say a car just suddenly drives through the wall. Whatever brainwave state you're in receives a shocking blow, and the charge from that event, the surprise, the shock, the trauma, the injury maybe, or just the oh my gosh, right? That gets locked in that brainwave state. Well, you move through the other brainwave states as well as you're processing, and so the fallout from that event ends up landing in the other brainwave states. So as you know, you're getting information from the insurance company on how to fix your wall. You're getting information on the driver. Perhaps you have to go to court. All of these things. That gets trapped in theta. Perhaps you lost some photographs or some precious items in your house and you're emotionally attached. That's going to affect your alpha. You have to physically pick everything up and go through it bit by bit. There's some physical in there and there's some emotional. And then there's just the dealing with it, having to tell people, explain it to people, figure it out, live in a house with a plastic wall. You can see how an event like that culminates into all different types of processing and locked charges and stories to tell for years and years and years. So a spin wave basically addresses all of those brainwave states in a singular subject. Now a reverse quantum spin or a reverse spin wave, it does the opposite. It clears the charges that are holding onto someone else or that are being held upon you by way of an object. It gets really confusing. So whereas quantum spin wave sessions neutralize your charges on persons, places, things, or events, reverse quantum spin wave sessions focus on charges that are held in place upon a person, place, thing, or thing through another subject. This allows for neutralization around energies that are being held in place, not only for yourself, but for other individuals tied to that individual subject as well. The subjects or the objects or whatever those things of reverse quantum spin waves are overlooked in many things that we attempt to change personally, because we have a natural inclination to see things in a singular point of view. We see things as us, I, me, mine. Even spiritually, when you look at yourself as being the only being in existence and everything here is your creation, right? You're still looking at it in a very singular personal point of view. The introduction of reverse quantum spin waves invites transpersonal pursuits of raised consciousness. And it does this by utilizing the avenues or the connections of our shared realities. So you can call those an entanglement, but the entanglement itself, it is the node of the entanglement that you're accessing. So reverse quantum spin waves by their nature are very confusing. I code them and it is so difficult for me to stay present and actually complete it, because while the process is occurring, that entanglement node wants to go in a million directions at the same time. And so it's very, very difficult to stay on course. It's easiest to explain how they work by relating it to regular spin waves and quantum spin waves. So a regular spin wave neutralizes your charges which exist around a single event, person, place, thing, environment, object, what have you. A regular spin wave affects the charge within this lifetime. So it can ripple out and change your relationships with others that you have in this lifetime, but it is very presently based. Now, for all of the quantum work, why is that valuable? Why do you want that? There are things in this immediate lifetime that are so prevalent in your experience and your identity and your behavior that getting those things out of the way changes everything. It'll change your life. It'll change everything. Also, when you focus into this particular lifetime, that spin wave addresses immediate concerns of that matter on this plane, particularly this physical plane. A quantum spin wave, it will address immediate concerns pertaining to a certain subject in a quantum manner. So when you take into consideration all the different lifetimes and existences that you've had, if you have that subject that exists, it's going to manifest in various ways, and it's going to impact you through different events which are related to other charges and other relationships. To give an example, I did a regular spin wave on my mother, and the immediate impact on my relationship with my mother revealed itself within a month. Afterwards, I had released so much energy that I was able to see auras. I wasn't able to see auras before. And I was able to see auras coming off the furniture. So it wasn't just moving, living bodies as you would expect. It was off of everything. And the degree of that was so massive, and that was just from a regular spin wave. Now, when I went into quantum spin I did a quantum spin wave on my mother. The quantum spin wave was on the entity that is my mother in this lifetime throughout all quantum space and my relationships with that entity. So in this lifetime, we're mother and daughter. But in other lifetimes, she may be my daughter. She may be my dog. She may be my son. She may be my husband. She may be my wife. I mean, the relationships are endless. Doesn't matter what they are. It clears all of those entangled relationships that I've had with that being. That clears all of the stuff that you bring forward that doesn't make sense in a relationship that would typically be between mother and daughter. So let's say that we were lovers in one life and one of us cheated on the other and we're carrying that resentment. Well, it doesn't make sense. That creates a big convoluted what the heck when you're dealing with mother and daughter and you've got this resentment from the mother or the daughter cheating on the other sexually. That doesn't make sense. That's where it gets into some sort of competition and where you're holding grudges, but they don't make any sense, and then you have child-mother conflicts. This is just one example. That's why you go quantum. But in the immediacy of this lifetime, of this existence, the regular spin wave creates massive amounts of change with immediate impacts and results that change your life. A quantum spin wave neutralizes your charges which exist around a single subject, which includes events, persons, places, and things and patterns throughout all lifetimes. So not only, so you could do a quantum spin wave like on your mother, and that includes that person, that relationship, and everything throughout all lifetimes, or that entity that is represented as your mother. But in a regular spin wave, if I was just clearing my mom, it would just be my mom. That's it. Now, a quantum spin wave, I can do mother, okay, but that also includes the most I've ever loved her, the most I've ever hated her, the greatest experience ever, the worst experience ever, patterns that I play out with her, and patterns that are instituted by my nurtured relationship with her that play out through the rest of my life. So quantum goes quantum. It hits all these extra aspects of mother. And to go back and forth, if you have a regular quantum or a regular spin wave on a person like mother, and there is still some stuff left over, you have to do an entirely new spin wave. For a quantum spin wave, you can take the MP3 and then focus on the remainder that's left over and replay that session until it's all clear. So quantum spin waves are nice because they're reusable. Singular spin waves are not reusable, but they're not. You wouldn't want them to be reusable. That would be missing the point. Now, a reverse quantum spin wave, okay, it neutralizes others' charges which exist around you in relation to a single event, person, place, or pattern, and it affects all lifetimes. So regular spin waves and quantum spin waves return energies to others which you have held in place with a particular charge. Reverse spin waves return your own energy which have been held in place by others. And it also returns energy which have been held in place by way of a certain thing or object. Whether or not the energy or charges are held in place consciously, that's not relevant. The wonderful thing about all spin waves is that neutrality is the result, and no matter how much the receiver wishes to keep something in place and they try to hold on to it, it actually makes the spin wave more effective when they do that because they're concentrating so much on that thing that it's easier for it to go away. There are typically one or two subjects or objects which an individual or a querent would seek a reverse quantum spin wave. These objects or subjects are usually associated with a memory or event, and given the way we operate, that's typically the way it works. But the event itself is not the true subject of the clearing. The object has a connecting piece of merging realities. This is the true subject of the clearing. A querent may receive a reverse quantum spin wave for an object or a subject which will not clear by a quantum spin wave. This is typical for a situation where the querent has significant attachments through the object. A querent may also receive a reverse quantum spin wave in order to liberate themselves from a conscious or unconscious attachment of another object or another individual by way of that object. The former will liberate vital energies for others attached via the object, and the latter will liberate vital energies for the querent. Both of these can occur within a single reverse quantum spin wave. So, okay, let's do an example, and I'm going to use my son first. He had this toy in the toy box from his second birthday, and I even have the picture of it. On his second birthday, he got this toy, and it was his favorite present. And I snapped a picture of it when he had opened it, and his little face was so precious and happy. I loved the toy because it evoked that happiness in my son. Well, years later, I said, clean out your toys because you don't need all of these. And that toy was one of the toys that was finally thrown away, and it had been a long time he'd held on to it. And so he threw it away, no problems. I had to take it out of the trash. I couldn't let it go. It really got to me. So I did a regular spin wave on that toy because it's an object, and I held charge on it. Well, it didn't work. I tried to throw it away again. I couldn't. Throwing it away actually made me want to cry. I could not get rid of the object. So I did a reverse quantum spin wave on that object. And what I found was the object itself, I was using that object to hold the charge I had on my son at his second birthday. That happiness, that image of him just loving that toy. I was using the toy to hold that in place. Once I went through the reverse quantum spin wave on that toy, I was able to throw it away, no questions asked, no attachment whatsoever. Totally free, threw it in the trash, put it in the dumpster, walk away free and clear. I didn't see my son for about a week because I did it while he was gone. And when he came back home, he told me, he said, "Hey, Mom, the craziest thing's been happening with me." And I was like, "What's that?" And he said, "I've been reliving my entire life since the age of 2 this week." He's like, "I remember everything. I remember my birthdays, I remember my clothes, I remember my friends, I remember us, everything." So when I released the energies that I was holding in place through that toy, I gave my son his energy. I released his energy. That's how much I was holding on in that charged state. And so he got all of that back. I also got freedom because I was no longer held in place by a 4-inch plastic toy that was having to stay around in my house and making me cry when I thought about getting rid of it. So let's say that automobile accidents are very relatable. Even if you haven't experienced one, you get the idea. So let's just say an individual was in an automobile accident, and there were 3 other individuals in the same vehicle when there was an accident. A full event clearing would involve numerous regular spin wave sessions. So each respective session would typically cover, so we would have the event of the accident. You may have one spin wave that covers all of the other passengers and the driver, right? You may need 2 depending on what was going on in the car. You have the car itself as an object. You have follow-up of before, during, or after the accident, because an event is not just a single moment as like 2 minutes of an accident or the second of impact. It's the seeing the event about to happen and not being able to do anything about it beforehand, the event itself, the aftermath, and the cleanup or the healing. Maybe if there was an emergency surgery or something. So you have a lot of things about the accident that are related to the event. So you may have 1 or 2 spin waves to address those things. There may have been a song on the radio, or there may have been the sound of a horn, or there may have been the sound of screaming. So that sound piece is definitely locked in the cerebral cortex, and that would typically require a clearing. Then you have some others, which are like witnesses or first responders, total strangers that you don't know, but you could hear their voices or see them and they were dragging you out of the car or something like that. So that adds up to at least 6 individual sessions. And that sounds like a lot, but if you're looking at something that could impact you the rest of your life in a degree of a severe accident like that, clearing it up in 6 sessions, that's pretty quick. That's very quick. Okay, so a full event clearing would involve, in the quantum spin range, it would involve 1 to 2 quantum spin wave sessions. And if there were any extra things to clear up, that could be done with the replays of those MP3s. A harmonious full event clearing would include a reverse quantum spin wave session. Now, I'm going to say it is relative to the perspective of an individual receiving these sessions, but the object would be a shared experience of all participants in the accident, including the other driver, other witnesses, and other responders. So the vehicle is an example of an object with an entanglement connection, okay, especially with the 4 people in the car, the other driver, and people witnessing an event. They would definitely see the car. The reverse quantum spin wave, okay, it will liberate the receiver of the spin wave. It will also liberate the others who are bound to their similar involvement with the object or the vehicle. So if you have the one person or the individual that's going through all of these sessions, in order to clear up their charge on the event, the reverse quantum spin wave is going to affect the other individuals who are a part of the event passively. They do not have to actively be part of the spin wave. The individual who's receiving the session will receive the greatest benefit. Okay, so we would do it on the vehicle for several reasons. One may be that the make and model of this vehicle incites an ongoing anxiety. So like let's say that it's a green car. That shade of green may create an anxiety every time you see a green car. If it's a certain make and model and it's really popular and it could create an anxiety while driving every time you encounter that make and model of car. So you wouldn't be able to ride in it again as a passenger. It could affect, these are just really surface things, it could affect in other subsequent ways. So that's why you would want to do the car. Now, if there was a song playing on the radio, the song could create a feeling of sickness or just a not happy sensation, and I think a song is easy to relate to because most individuals do have a song that they just don't like or was playing when like something occurred that they don't like, so every time they hear the song it creates a negative experience and they want to change the channel or the station or turn it off. So if a particular song were playing in the car during the time of an accident, it would evoke that same type of response. The song in that sense can be considered an object because it's a sound. And receiving a spin wave for the song will end a particular individual's negative response. Although a successful spin wave will have taken place in this instance, the receiver may still experience an emotional or psychological response when the song is heard. Now, receiving a reverse quantum spin wave based upon that song will liberate all other residual ties to the other accident victims. And what that tie is it's maintaining a reality of connected trauma with the individual seeking change. That is that entanglement. So on an empathic scale, even if you don't consider yourself a psychic or an empath or an intuitive, that connection point can tie you to that collective trauma through the song, even though you personally have cleared the song. The other individuals are strong enough to hold you in place by way of that song. Just like I was able to hold my son's energy in place by way of a little toy. It's funny, and I'm jumping the subject a little bit, but you know that classic dream that everyone's afraid of standing in front of an audience naked and everybody laughing at them? One of the reasons that's so scary is because even though you may forget the event, everybody else in the audience won't. And that collective holding that traumatic experience in place can keep bringing it up no matter how much the person on the stage surpasses it. It's amazing how strong the collective can be regarding the numbers of individuals versus the single individual attempting to create change. And when you look at personal power, personal potency, there is no difference, but we give greater numbers deference to potency. If you were to do a reverse quantum spin wave in that instance of the dream on the stage, on the microphone that the person is seeing, of the flashing lights that's blinding their eyes, or the sound of the audience laughing, that would truly clear all of the energies attached to that event. And it's very likely that a majority of the audience would no longer remember that event in the same way. So you would be neutralizing the charges of the audience experience as well. So they're less likely to continuously bring up that charge in different ways. And that way it would neutralize a lot of patterns or repetitive events or cycles in the individual's experience. The reverse quantum spin wave will break this bond, and it will release vast quantities of vital energy for all individuals connected. The related energies reveal themselves in countless ways. So The manifestation itself is an individual experience, and that honestly is the resulting magic of spin waves. So, in the toy example, my son experienced his entire life all over again, and for him, it was a pleasant experience. He had all that energy back. That doesn't happen every time. That was his individual experience, but for me, that was the feedback I needed to know that it was done on both sides. Since it is, in the example, since it is likely that more individuals were affected by the vehicle than the song, because only the people in the car would have been listening to the song, a reverse quantum spin wave on the vehicle may have greater results. In theory, it makes logical sense, but in actuality, it's the receiver's personal experience that will reveal their necessary object for reverse quantum spin wave. So in an example, I could say, oh, we would do this and this and this. But when actually speaking with someone who had an experience like this, or we're working on another experience, that true object will present itself rather quickly. Now, what are the actual results from this, from a reverse quantum spin wave? It's easy to say, oh, you get energy back, oh, you get freedom, you're no longer triggered in certain scenarios by certain objects or groups or environments. That is the practical way to look at it. Really, when you're wanting to change your living, when you're wanting to bring joy into your life, you want to have ease and happiness, all spin waves will give you that. The reverse quantum spin wave in particular is going to give you a higher degree of unattachment to especially the physical plane, the physical world. It's going to break your attachments of memory and experience and objects and environments that we associate by way of the physical plane, even if the ultimate connection is spiritual in nature. We're using a physical objective in order to hold it in place. When you're looking at ascension, transcension, growth, spirituality, enlightenment, reverse quantum spin waves are tickets to those achievements. And it's really not difficult to find those objects which you are most attached to. The trick is to recognize all of the other contiguous attachments which exist through that object. Unattachment leads to personal indifference, and that is not a bad thing. That is that disconnect to your investment in the actions of others, the existences of others, and outcomes in your personal life, so that you have greater freedom to enjoy true happiness. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Rann Goldrich. I'm also called the Immortal Rann, and I am a facilitator of happiness. If you have more questions about reverse quantum spin waves, or any spin waves in general, please visit onenessiseverything.com.